Hey now, Petey Grizz here, and it's time for who will be the knife of the week. Yeah, man. So I looked at a couple of cool knives this week. It was kind of a slow week, actually. I only had a couple knives come in, but still had some cool stuff. So first up was this old PAL scout knife. You know, the Remington pattern, just made by PAL Blade Company. This has quickly become one of my favorites in my scout collection. The blade's a little wasted, but it's in such great shape, and everything's like just thick and heavy duty and tight and right. Sometimes you just get a knife and just everything just fits together just right, and this is one of those examples. It's got this interesting bail that doesn't go through. It only goes into the bolsters. So I don't see that many of these. Yeah, I guess you do see them missing pretty regularly. Yeah, imagine they get lost once in a while. Got the cool two-piece can opener with the two sheets spot welded together. Got the long, lean flathead screwdriver, cap lifter, Jones. Finally, we've got that punch. Bam. It just doesn't work the same. You got to have a two-syllable word like the R word. So yeah, man, this is one of my quickly becoming a favorite. It's got really nice, jigged bone scales. I keep seeing this called Rogers bone on eBay. Maybe somebody can tell me, is that like the name for this? I mean, I've heard of peach seed jig and others. I mean, I assumed it was just meant to try to look like stag kind of. But then the patterns kind of evolved to become something, by this point, it doesn't even look anything like stag, really. It looks completely just like jigged bone. But I like the dye job they do. And I like that you'll notice a pattern that I tend to like knives that have one light and one dark side. It's like the yin-yang thing, In for repair, I had my buddy Kirk's Angler Fisherman Deluxe. We got the 5-blade corkscrew. 5-turn corkscrew, 5-blade. That'd be a hell of a corkscrew if I had 5 blades. Got that reamer. Bam. Yeah. Nickel silver inlays and shield. Super cool. Somebody asked me about the fish having 5 lines in the tail. If that, I don't know. I don't. Some guys get into that detail. I mean, I haven't noticed that. I'm sure there's difference. I know, like on the motorist the motorist, there's ones with 12 spokes and ones with 10 spokes on the wheel and the little car. So there's some differences. I don't know if that applies just to, if that marks the change from this to stainless, or if they carried this pattern over and then simplified it later. Because they did a lot of the patterns, you'll notice they just kind of evolved to be simpler over time. But sorry, I don't have that answer for you. I'm sure somebody on the forum can help you out. We've got the cap lifter with the cable stripper and the wire stripper, double stripper and ripper. Bam. Got that can opener with the 2D Phillips. Man, we looked at all this stuff yesterday, didn't we? Yeah, I'm kind of getting over it already. Got them skizzers. Might as well just plow through it now, right? Who doesn't mind looking at a Swiss Army knife again anyway? We've got the descaler. Beautiful. Everybody's favorite tool, the scaler. We've got the case-hardened metal file, the cool one. This is like the best version. The one before this doesn't have the cleaning tip. The one that later they just changed to like a stamped stainless one that isn't as hard or something like that. We've got the reprofiled clip blade. I think it came out sweet. And the newly straightened main blade, which also came out pretty well. It's got a subtle bend to it, but man, you have to bend it past the bend to, like when you're fixing a bend, I drive it into the board and tweak it back like this, but you have to go like basically double the radius of the bend in the other direction to straighten it out, and that's where people break them off. So you got to be very careful doing that. I've done it with hammers. I've seen people talk about heating them up. Here's the thing with heating the knife up: you're not going to get the steel hot enough on your stove or something like that to make a difference at a molecular level in the steel. Steel has to be heated up. Furnaces have to have a blower on them because they have to get the steel up to thousands of degrees. You're just not doing that on your stove or on a range top or whatever. and getting it hot enough. It's just all in your head. So you're hitting with the hammer thinking that heat's helping. The heat ain't doing nothing to it. And if anything, if you do get it hot enough, you're just going to temper the steel. You're basically going to take the hardness out of it at the tip, which is the last place you want to lose the hardness. So yeah, it's something to think about. You can't really put heat to these things and fix them, at least not like that. You would have to put it in a proper furnace, then it would have to go back through a heat treat again, because once you bring steel back up to its temperature, it loses, and then it cools down naturally. The hardness is gone, so it has to be quenched. The whole thing has to be done over again. So it's totally not worth the effort. If I get one really bad on a sweet knife, I'll replace the blade rather than deal with breaking it. I mean, I'll try to straighten them out. What the problem is, if they're kinked really hard, what happens is you end up with a line in it where the metal has stretched and expanded. So when you bend it back, that metal basically, it's impossible to get the blade straight. Even when you look at it, you'll notice a little ripple in it or something like that. So dealing with these tips is very delicate. I didn't mean to get in the weeds that much on that topic. I forgot we were doing knife of the week and not talking about that cool knife again. So something I was using all week that I dug out of the archives here is my Wenger Champ. This dates to the probably late 60s, early 70s. This has a 5-turn fluted corkscrew. Yeah, Wenger did the opposite of Victorinox. They went from 4 to 5, while Victorinox went from 5 to 4 turns. We got that reamer. Check this out. This is what's cool about this knife. This little dog leg, or Eichenberg, I believe, is the guy that patented it. But yeah, this is their version of the forward operating can opener. Cool design, except it doesn't, give you much other, you don't get any other utility with it other than stabbing stuff with it, which, I mean, we've got plenty of stabbing things on here anyway. We've got the cap lifter with the screwdriver and the cap lifter. No wire stripping notch, no 90-degree stop, no push to lock. This is before any of that stuff took place. Next up, we've got, oh yeah, the magnifying glass. I actually took this lens from I think an Evo 23, and because this didn't have a lens when I got it, but yeah, now it's got a lens, so sweet. And that magnifying glass, it's a little stronger. It's smaller in diameter, but it's a little stronger. I say it's like I think they are like a 10 power, whereas the old Victorinox were an 8 power. It's not much. It's noticeable though. We've got the Wenger version of everybody's favorite tool, the descaler. Probably the most used tool in the Swiss Army knife catalog, let's be honest. I mean, if Carl Elsner could go back in time, he'd put this on the original, officer's 1897 knife. Of course he would. Who wouldn't want to have that at all times? You never know when you're going to have to gut a fish, We've got the Wenger metals file and metal saw. And here you can talk about, this is how the Victorinox earlier files looked. I don't have one close by me, but yeah, they didn't have the nail cleaning tip. The file just went all the way to the end, as did the saw. So, yeah, and you can't really cut with that anyway. So it was a good call making that tip useful for cleaning out fingernails and poking stuff with. We've got their wood saw. Notice they use a nail nick. Victorinox, just made the saw long enough that you could grab the tip with your fingers. And then finally, we've got the old school Wenger scissors. These are nice scissors. They're very close. I suspect you could put these in an 84mm Victorinox. I think they would fit in with either no or very mild modifications. But they're almost identical to the 84mm. In, I believe, 1975, maybe 76, they switched to that, the integrated spring that works with the back spring and has the lever and is all built in and doesn't break and fall off. But the Wenger springs seem to be, they were pretty heavy duty. Usually these held on a lot, but surprisingly for those leaf springs, they held up pretty good. And finally, we've got the last layer with the nail file and cleaner. This is something I love about Wenger, is you could basically get any model with a nail file on it. And for daily carry, I like having a nail file on me. And finally, we've got the old Wenger blade. This is my favorite part about this era of Wenger knives. This is, I mean, I would call this a drop point blade. I mean, to me, a spear point is closer to symmetrical, whereas the drop point actually brings the point down below the center of the spine. So I would call this a drop point, and it's got great belly. This is just a great blade shape. You know, their modern one, they kept, you know, the one they still use on the Evo series, Victorinox does, it's a little thicker than the Victorinox blades, but it doesn't have the same profile as this. I really like the profile of this blade. We've got the famous Wenger Delamotte Switzerland stainless, and again, the infamous Swiss umbrella scandal, the Umbrella Corporation. Next up, a little oddball that I was carrying earlier in the week. This little Hoffritz lumberjack. A lumberjack is just a Bantam with a sole tacked on it. So we've got, oh yeah, I forgot about this. This one has the cap lifter. So this was like an economy lumberjack from before they had the combo tool. You occasionally, like the early ones would just have a clip blade. Then they started doing this thinner version of the cap lifter screwdriver. And if you compare it to a full size, I believe you'll see it's thinner. I think it's thinner. It would make sense to be thinner. Yeah, it's quite a bit thinner. As it would make sense to make room to clear for the blade. But still, so you have that. So you don't have a combo tool. You lose the can opening capability. But you have a better screwdriver. I don't know. It's cool. I just think it's neat that it's got that little change. Then we've got the 84mm wood saw. What I do need to find is a big lumberjack. They did make them 91mm lumberjacks. I've never seen one for sale, but I'd love to stumble upon one just to check it out. And finally, we've got the main blade, nothing on the back, Victorinox stamped on the front. So yeah, this was part of their economy line, and then sub-branded for Hoffritz. I love that they put Switzerland when they're from New York. And finally, we're coming to dun dun dun, the knife of the week, because I already made up my mind, and it's my favorite salesman. I love this knife. This is just such a great knife. This is one of the perfect Victorinox models in the 84mm size. I mean, sure, the Super Tinker is great, but the Super Tinker is just not as cool. You know, maybe it's because they're, you know, rare, more expensive. I don't know. The first time I held an 84mm with scissors, it was a small Huntsman, and I didn't even know I didn't even realize that it was going to be smaller when I got it. When I got it, I was like, wait, something's up with this. It's a little smaller. Then I dived down the whole 84mm rabbit hole. But, yeah, we've got the famous square Phillips. This one with the can key. This is my least favorite of the square Phillips. Doesn't have the file. It's got the can key, which significantly weakens the tip, which is why you'll see these often with half of the tip split off. If you use it on something with a lot of torque, you can definitely break that because of that cut. We've got that reamer. Bam. Nickel silver shield. This knife confused. I feel like this knife is later in the 70s. It did not come with the tweezers. So these are replacement tweezers. I gave it the metal ones. It could have had the plastic ones if it's like post 78. And that's where I thought it was, but it's like that nickel silver shield throws me off because I figured they phased them out by 76, you know, at the latest. I think they started really around 74, but maybe some still were floating around till the late 70s, I guess, because, you know, I certainly have knives from this period that are all stainless, yeah, or mostly stainless, but every once in a while one will come up that is still nickel silver. We've got the cap lifter screwdriver, as always, again, toothpick, aluminum tip tweezers that I had to replace. We've got the can opener with Phillips. We've got those outstanding 84mm scissors, and I just ripped the spring right out of there because I'm such a good host. Yeah, now I messed my spring up. Yep, there we go. That spring's not in there very good. I got to get a new supply of the old springs. The new springs suck in the old knives, because what it is, these old knives are flat on the back of this handle right here. And the modern ones, let me see if I have a newer one close by. Probably, maybe this one does it. I can't get the scissors out. Maybe this one. Here we go. So if you look at this compact, there's a notch in the back of that handle right there. And the tip of the modern spring is designed to ride in that groove so it can't pop off. Now what happens when you put the new springs in the old knives is that tip is rounded, so it just tends to slide off. And what I've subsequently been doing is removing this and putting a bend in it so it has a flat end like this, and then it won't tend to slide off center like that. So shows you how much I use my scissors, because I've been carrying this thing all week, and the first time I pull out the scissors, the spring pops out. So yeah, what I'm going to do is cut that tip off and then bend it over, and that will take care of that little bugger. But anyway, regardless of that little snafu on my favorite salesman, finish it up with pen blade and the main blade. Victorinox stainless, rust-free, Switzerland, all that good stuff. And on the back, we just have the giant umbrella. No Victoria, Officier Swiss. Bam. That is the knife of the week. Salesman. Mid to late 70s. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Grizz out.